Welcome back to Middle East Today with Neil Drao. I'm your host Neil Drao, and today is the 13th of January 2025. In this episode, we'll cover some of the most important and pressing stories unfolding in the Middle East, from the mysterious death of a Swiss citizen in an Iranian prison to delicate hostage negotiations of Gaza and rising tensions surrounding Iran's nuclear program. We've got a lot to unpack today. So, let's dive right in. Our first story takes us to Iran, where a Swiss citizen has tragically died in a prison in Semnan, a city in eastern Iran. The man, whose identity remains undisclosed, had been arrested by Iranian authorities on charges of espionage. According to the BBC News, the death was reported by judiciary-run Mizan news agency, which claimed the man had committed suicide. Despite efforts from prison officials to save his life, they were unsuccessful. This unfortunate incident underscores the ongoing issue of Iran's detention of foreign nationals, especially those accused of espionage. Over the years, Iran has detained numerous dual nationals and foreigners, often on charges related to espionage and security matters. The BBC News notes that Switzerland has played a key intermediary role between Iran and the US, which could complicate diplomatic relations further, especially as Switzerland represents US interests in Tehran. The Swiss government confirmed the man's death, with the Swiss Foreign Affairs Department in contact with the Iranian authorities. This case is far from unique, as Iranian authorities continue to detain individuals for political leverage in the highly sensitive geopolitical environment in the region. Next, we turn to the latest in the ongoing negotiations surrounding the Gaza ceasefire and the release of hostages held by Hamas. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been in talks with the US President Joe Biden regarding these negotiations. According to the CNN, Netanyahu briefed Biden on the progress made in Doha, where key talks are being held, and expressed gratitude for the support from both Biden and incoming President Donald Trump. The negotiations are complex, with the US pushing for an immediate ceasefire in exchange for the release of hostages. However, Israel's political landscape is divided. As CNN reported, Netanyahu faces significant opposition within his own government from far-right ministers. Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir will reject any immediate ceasefire. They argue that the fighting must continue until Hamas is fully dismantled and all hostages are returned. The situation is further complicated by the pressures Netanyahu faces from both the Biden administration and the incoming Trump administration. The CNN highlights that Trump's incoming National Security Advisor Mike Waltz has made it clear that the US expects an agreement before Trump's inauguration on the 20th of January. Meanwhile, Netanyahu's team in Doha has expressed cautious optimism about the talks, but they acknowledge that the progress has been slow. This story exemplifies the delicate balancing act that Israel and the US must perform, as both sides continue to pressure Hamas while trying to avoid further escalation in the region. Finally, let's turn our attention back to Iran, where tensions continue to rise, particularly regarding its nuclear program and military capabilities. This week, Iran made global headlines with the release of Mohammad Abdini, an Iranian national detained in Italy at the request of the United States. Al Jazeera reported that Abdini was accused by Washington of being involved in a deadly drone attack on a US military base in Jordan, which killed 3 American soldiers. Abdini's release followed intense diplomatic negotiations between Iranian and Italian intelligence officials. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed his return to Tehran, labeling the arrest as a misunderstanding. However, Al Jazeera notes that this release came on the heels of Iran's escalating military activities, including large-scale defense drills aimed at protecting key nuclear sites such as Fordow and Hundab. These drills demonstrate Iran's preparedness for any potential strikes on its nuclear infrastructure, and the country has even unveiled new missile cities to showcase its growing missile capabilities. As tensions with the West continue to escalate, Iran has been strengthening its position in the region, particularly with the light of the changing political landscape. With the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria and ongoing conflicts in Gaza, Iran's influence is facing challenges. Despite this, Iran remains adamant about its role in the Middle East, with its military maneuvers serving as a clear reminder of its intentions. According to Al Jazeera, Iran has been increasingly vocal about defending its nuclear program, and its officials have issued stark warnings to both the US and Israel. With the incoming Trump administration, the Middle East is bracing for a shift in policy, which may lead to a more aggressive stance towards Iran. As we look ahead to 2025, the future of Iran's nuclear ambitions and its role in regional geopolitics will be crucial factors in shaping the landscape. So, as we wrap up today's episode of Middle East Today with Neil Drao, we've seen just how interconnected these stories are. Whether it's the tragic death in Iran, or the complicated negotiations over hostages in Gaza, or Iran's ongoing defiance in the face of international pressure, the Middle East remains a region of intense geopolitical maneuvering, and as always, the stakes are high. Thank you for joining me today. Be sure to subscribe to Middle East Today with Neil Drao for more in-depth analysis of the events shaping this crucial region. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.